Hello friends, today we'll know about the general features and muscular attachments of radius bone. This is the radius bone having upper end, shaft and lower end. This is the lateral bone of forearm which is homologous with the tibia of lower limb. As it is a long bone, it is having 3 borders and 3 surfaces in the shaft. This is the upper end. This is the shaft having 3 borders and 3 surfaces. And this is the lower end. First we'll see about the upper end. This upper end consists of a head which is disc shaped. This one. This disc shaped head on its superior surface which is concave and it articulates with the capitulum of humerus to form humeroradial part of elbow joint. Encircling to the disc shaped head we'll see a circumference. This one. The circumference of this disc, it is enveloped by an annular ligament, and the circumference of this head of the radius, it articulates with the radial notch of ulna. As you can see here, this is the radial notch of ulna. This circumference will articulate at the radial notch of ulna to form superior radio-ulnar joint, which is a pivot variety of synovial joint. This annular ligament will encircle this circumference of the head like this, and the head of the radius, it is rotated inside the annular ligament. Here it forms the joint superior radio-ulnar joint, which is a pivot variety. And after completion of this head, this is the neck. The constricted part is the neck. Below and medial side of the neck, we'll see the radial tuberosity. This one. This is the radial tuberosity having smooth anterior surface and rough posterior surface. This tuberosity, it is rough in its posterior aspect whereas smooth in its anterior aspect. So these are the parts which we can see in a head, that is head superior surface and its circumference, neck and radial tuberosity. Now we'll see the shaft. This is the shaft. It is having 3 borders and 3 surfaces. So first one is the anterior border. This anterior border, it extends from the anterior margin of the radial tuberosity up to the styloid process. So this is the anterior border. On the upper 2/3, this anterior border, it is oblique, whereas the lower 1/3, it is vertical. This oblique anterior border, here we can call it as anterior oblique line, whereas the lower 1/3, it is vertical and it is crest-like. This is about the anterior border. And next border is a sharp medial border. This is the interosseous border. This interosseous border, which extends from the posterior margin of the radial tuberosity. Next, this is the posterior border, which is the same exact mirror image of the anterior border. On its upper 2/3, it is oblique, and whereas the lower 1/3, it is vertical. This is the posterior border. On its upper 2/3, we call it as a posterior oblique line. So this is the anterior border, which extends from the anterior margin of radial tuberosity and continues with the styloid process. And this is the medial border, which extends from the posterior margin of the radial tuberosity. In its lower end, it continues with the posterior margin of the ulnar notch. And lastly, this is the posterior border, which is the same mirror image of anterior border. Now we'll see about the lower end. This lower end, it is having anterior surface which is flat, and this is the posterior surface which is having 4 grooves and with a prominent tubercle. that is known as the dorsal tubercle of Lister. And this is the medial surface having the ulnar notch. This lateral surface which continues as the styloid process. And this is the inferior surface. Inferior surface on its lateral part, it is triangular in shape which articulates with the scaphoid bone. Medial part which is quadrangular in shape which articulates with the lunate bone, which takes part in the formation of wrist joint. So totally on its lower end it is having anterior flat surface, lateral surface which continues as a styloid process, medial surface will see the ulnar notch, this one, posterior surface will see number of grooves with a prominent tubercle, and lastly this is the inferior surface. This. Now we'll see the anatomical position of the radius. The head should face upwards with its concave superior surface. It should face upwards, and this is the radial tuberosity. It should face medially. Below the neck, the radial tuberosity should face medial side. And this is the sharp interosseous border or medial border which should face medially. And in the lower end, the flat anterior surface should face anteriorly. And the pointed styloid process should face laterally. And on the medial surface, we'll see the ulnar notch. This should face medially. So these are the points you should remember to keep the radius in anatomical position. Now we'll see the muscular attachments of radius. We'll start from upper end. This is the upper end. Upper end, it is covered by the hyaline cartilage. This concave superior surface, it is covered by the hyaline cartilage and it articulates with the capitulum of humerus to form the part of elbow joint. Next, the circumference of the head, which is encircled by the annular ligament. And this is the constricted part called neck. At this neck also, we'll see the lower margin of this annular ligament. It is encroached by this ligament. And this is the radial tuberosity, which is seen below the neck on its medial side. This radial tuberosity on its posterior aspect, it is rough, and here we'll see the insertion of biceps brachii muscle. Anterior part of this radial tuberosity, which is smooth and it is related to bursa. And above the radial tuberosity at this region on its medial side, we'll see there is a quadrate membrane, attachment of quadrate membrane. Below at this level, below the radial tuberosity, on its medial aspect, we'll see the oblique cord. Now we'll see the muscular attachments on the shaft. This is the anterior border. This is the anterior border and this is the anterior surface. This anterior border will give an attachment to the radial head of flexor digitorum superficialis. This one. Next, this is the anterior surface. On its upper two-third, it gives an attachment to the flexor pollicis longus muscle. Flexor pollicis longus. And this is the sharp interosseous border. This interosseous border, it gives an attachment to the interosseous membrane. And on the top of this interosseous membrane, we'll see a gap. Through that gap, there will be the passage of posterior interosseous vessels and nerve. So the upper 3/4 of this interosseous border, it gives an attachment to the interosseous membrane. Now, this is the lateral surface which extends between the anterior border and the posterior border. In this lateral surface, there are three muscles are inserted: upper third, middle third and lower third. In its upper one third, there will be the insertion of supinator. In the middle one third, there is the insertion of pronata teres. Lower one third, there is the insertion of brachioradialis. Now we'll see the muscular attachments on the posterior surface. From above downwards, two muscles will arise, abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis. They will take origin from this surface. Abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis. Now we'll see about the lower end. This is the lower end which is flat on its anterior surface. On its flat surface, we can palpate the radial artery which lies lateral to the flexor carpi radialis tendon. On its flat surface, we'll see the flexor carpi radialis tendon. Lateral to this flexor carpi radialis tendon, we'll see the radial artery. So on this flat surface, we can palpate the radial artery. Apart from that, this flat anterior surface and part of the medial surface above this ulnar notch, this area, this triangular medial surface and the flat anterior surface, here we will see the attachment of pronator quadratus. Next, this is the styloid process. Here it gives an attachment to the extensor retinaculum, this area. Now we'll see on the posterior side. Posteriorly we'll see 4 grooves. These grooves are produced by means of attachment of septa from the extensor retinaculum. Above there will be the extensor retinaculum and here there will be the bone. From that extensor retinaculum, number of septa they came to reach the bone and divides this area into 6 compartments. From lateral to medial side, we'll see totally 6 compartments. It is divided by means of a septa coming from the underneath surface of the extensor retinaculum towards the bone. So first we'll see the first groove. This groove, there will be the passage of abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis. These are the contents of first compartment. Next one, this is the second groove. Here there will be the passage of extensor carpi radialis longus and extensor carpi radialis brevis. So these are the second compartment contents. And next, this is the dorsal tubercle of Lister. And here we will see one groove. In this groove, there will be the passage of extensor pollicis longus. This is the extensor pollicis longus tendon for this is the groove for the extensor pollicis longus tendon. And this dorsal tubercle of Lister, which acts as a pulley. It lies lateral to the tendon. Here, as you all know, this is the anatomical snub box. This lateral boundary, it is formed by the abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis, whereas the medial boundary is formed by the extensor pollicis longus. So here, this is the location of the dorsal tubercle of Lister. This tendon, this tubercle which lies lateral to the tendon of the extensor pollicis longus, and it acts as a pulley. Up to this level, the tendon will come as in vertical direction. At this point, it changes its direction in its oblique course. At this point, this dorsal tubercle of Lister will act as a pulley for this tendon. This is the third compartment content. Next one is another groove. This is the groove. Here there will be the passage of extensor digitorum, extensor indicis, anterior interosseous. Here this is the fourth compartment. In this we'll see the extensor digitorum, extensor indicis, anterior interosseous vessels and posterior interosseous nerve. So these are the contents of fourth compartment. Next, here see, this is the articulation of this radius and ulnar to form inferior radio-ulnar joint. Here on the posterior aspect, this is the posterior aspect, dorsal aspect, and here this is the ventral aspect. It will be like this, the ventral aspect. Now I am showing the dorsal aspect. On the dorsal aspect, by joining these two, behind this joint we'll see another groove. In this groove, there will be it forms the fifth compartment here. So there will be the passage of extensor digiti minimi tendon. Next one, there is the groove which is seen behind the head of this is the head of the ulna and this is the styloid process. In this groove, there will be the passage of extensor carpi ulnaris. So this is the sixth compartment content. So totally there are 6 compartments which these compartments are formed by the septa coming from the underneath surface of extensor retinaculum to this grooves. Next we'll see the inferior surface. On the inferior surface, this triangular shaped impression, it articulates with the scaphoid bone, whereas the quadrangular shaped impression articulates with the lunate bone. And the margin of this inferior surface, it is lined by an articular disc, which is lining this margin, and the scaphoid bone and lunate bone make together to form a wrist joint. And the articular disc is attached at its lower end of the ulnar notch. Here, this is the ulnar notch which is seen on the medial side of the radius, lower end, medial side of the radius. So at its lower margin, we'll see the articular disc. So by that, the head of the ulna, it is located above the level of that articular disc to form the inferior radio-ulnar joint. By this, we can understand that this ulnar bone, it doesn't participate in the formation of wrist joint.